So a very busy day out on the campaign trail. So to discuss some of the latest things that have happened there in political news, I want to bring in Brian Sobel to our conversation. He's a political analyst. Thanks so much for joining us here on Live Now.
Christina, good afternoon.
All right, Brian, I do want to first start with the fact that, again, we saw Vice President Kamala Harris. She's there in Raleigh, North Carolina. She made several remarks earlier this afternoon before she headed, talking to the media, talking about the fact that she did release her medical records. This is a new update that's come out of her campaign, and it's an interesting thing to see her release those, trying to show the American people that she is in good health if she is to win this election.
What she's trying to do is contrast her youth and her excellent physical condition with that of Donald Trump. If you recall, Christina, a few weeks ago, we were looking at Joe Biden at 82 and Donald Trump in his late 70s as the flag bearers for each of their parties. Now, Donald Trump is the older person in the race, and I think it's calculated by the Harris campaign that by releasing these records, it suggests that the healthier of the two people is Kamala Harris.
And when, again, we're showing you some footage of her meeting and greeting with folks there in Raleigh, I have to ask you, you could just mention the fact that the hope of that campaign is maybe to contrast her health in comparison to former President Donald Trump's. We do know that if he is elected, by the time his term is finished, he would be the oldest candidate in history. Do you think that by Kamala Harris releasing her medical records, this might entice or just bring out those records from the Trump team, or you think they won't bite or take the bait?
No, they won't take the bait. Donald Trump has said for years he's in excellent condition. He's had doctors that work with him say he's in excellent condition. I don't think that he's going to release his records to contrast his health with that of Kamala Harris. And at this point, probably no reason to do that. Again, Harris is doing that, her campaign is doing that to just try to say to the American people, we have a candidate who's in tremendous health, excellent health, and much younger than the other candidate. Vote for us.
And when we're talking about some of these political events also that these candidates are doing, right now I'm going to show up and put up a live look that we have right now out of Coachella, California. This is where the former president is expected to speak in just a matter of hours. Earlier today, he held a roundtable with Hispanic American voters as well in Nevada. I have to ask you, what are some of the thought processes behind these stops that he's making? Obviously, Nevada is a swing state. That makes sense. But California is not a swing state. It traditionally votes blue. What's the reason for him showing up there?
Well, there's a reason why he shows up in California and Kamala Harris shows up in California, and that is that California is the nation's ATM. There's a lot of money to be gathered when these candidates come into either Northern California and Silicon Valley or in Southern California with the entertainment industry. So first and foremost, they come through California to scoop up cash. But there's probably more than one reason to come. And in the case of the Coachella rally, I think it's a show the flag. It's that, hey, we know for certain we are not going to win California, but we know we have a lot of supporters in California. That is the thinking of the Trump campaign, and it kind of maybe is designed to get a little bit under Kamala Harris's skin from the standpoint of, hey, we're coming into a state that you are going to win going away, but we're showing you that there are a lot of Trump supporters and Republican supporters in California.
This might also affect some of those down ballot races as well.
Yes. Absolutely. But in California, the United States Senate race is between Adam Schiff, who a lot of viewers around the nation know because he's been very prominent on Capitol Hill, and the former baseball player and Los Angeles Dodgers, Steve Garvey. But it's been a lackluster campaign at best. Schiff enjoys a double-digit lead. He is going to win. So when we start talking about down ballot races, yes, the president can bring Garvey up on the stage if he wishes. I don't think he will, by the way, but other people. But California is so solidly blue that even the down tickets, so we're talking about the state Senate, the state assembly, are mostly going to Democrats, although there are some districts in Southern California that do have Republicans in office. And so to the extent that Donald Trump can help shore up those candidates, I think he thinks he's doing a favor for those people.
Let's talk Kamala Harris now. Again, she just arrived in North Carolina not too long ago. She's making some OTR stops, speaking and meeting with community leaders. And it was pointed out that she met with Black community leaders and religious leaders there in the state as well. When you're looking at her strategy moving forward, being in, again, one of those swing states of North Carolina, why is she there? And what other things do you predict that she will do leading into Election Day?
Well, she has to shore up and make sure that the various electorates in all of these swing states are looking at her and then voting for her. So that includes Black Americans, Hispanics, particularly on the East Coast, Latinos on the West Coast. So she's going around trying to solidify all these various groups that she needs to show up on Election Day. And that includes young people. We know that young people don't tend to vote. So she's attempting to reach out to young people as well. But some of her liabilities precede her or are out there in front. And so she's trying to get to the audiences that she thinks she can still win. This race, Christina, as you know, is just razor thin close. And in 7 states, the 7 swing states, it is so close. It is not, you cannot predict anything as we speak late today.
And when we're talking about some of these swing states, again, former President Donald Trump holding a rally particularly targeting Hispanic voters. When you're talking about that and Vice President Kamala Harris, who has really had that group's ears more so in this election race? Is it a way to tell at this point, or will it just be on Election Day when we find out that final answer?
I think we'll learn a lot more on Election Day with exit polling and then after Election Day. But Donald Trump has really reached out to the Hispanic and Latino communities, really talking about the economy, jobs, illegal immigration, ironically, in the sense that, hey, as these people come into the United States from south of the border, particularly, they're taking jobs that you have. And you ought to be concerned about that. And that has resonated on the western side of the United States with Latino audiences, and it has resonated with Hispanic audiences on the eastern side of the country. So he's been hammering at that hard. He's also gone into a lot of Black communities and said there is this group of people that have come into the United States. They're taking your jobs. And so he's talking economy with Black Americans and rising up and having more of the American dream through better jobs and again, just hammering on the economy, which is always, Christina, as you know, been the leader in any presidential discussion going back many campaigns.
And when we're talking about some of those other issues, such as women's reproductive rights, that may not be the top issue when you're talking about the economy or immigration, are these candidates both needing to focus on that as well to get those undecided voters? Because we do know they still exist out there. It might be hard to believe, but again, just less than 24 days till the election. Some folks still don't know who they're going to select for the next president.
True, but that number is very small, on the order of maybe 4 or 5%. And that's why this thing is so razor close. And so to the extent that Kamala Harris can reach out and pull some independents to the Democrat side of the ledger, and maybe some Republicans, Christina, who don't really like Donald Trump, may like his policies, but just can't envision another 4 years with Donald Trump, and pull them over, she wins. If Donald Trump in turn can pull over independents who really don't care for the policies, what we know of anyway, of Kamala Harris, and pull those over to the Republican side of the ledger, perhaps he wins. But that number has been small and it hasn't moved in any of the polling, and we've seen a lot of it in quite some time. And that's why this race is just so close. But both of these candidates are just trying to reach out now to thousands in various precincts that are going to lead the way on election night.
And Brian, before I let you know, I have to ask you, do you think that by not having that third debate and being able to see these two candidates go head to head, that affected either of them in a negative or positive way?
No, the history of presidential debates is really fascinating, but the answer is probably not. Most of this country knows who they want to vote for. The vast majority. So watching Kamala Harris again or Donald Trump again may not matter. If we go back to 1960 to the Kennedy and Nixon debates on television, they were so impactful at that time that presidents decided they didn't want to debate on television until 1976. 1976, when Gerald Ford and Jimmy Carter debated. So it's important, but sometimes not doing the debate is better than doing the debate. And I think that's the decision taken by the Trump camp. And of course, Donald Trump did not do well in that debate against Kamala Harris. So what does he gain by doing it again? And for Kamala Harris, she does perhaps benefit because of the results of the first debate. So there, obviously, he wasn't going to take another debate.
All right. Again, we are now less than a month from Election Day. Brian Sovol, a political analyst, just giving us some of the latest headlines and analysis on what's going on in this race as we are all waiting 24 days until that day, the ballots going out. So thank you so much, Brian, for joining us here on Live Now from Fox.